So Tamarra, thank you so much for being on this episode and for agreeing to be on Thinking Hat. So for those who might not know you, can we give like a small introduction about yourself and your YouTube channel?
Okay, I'm Tamarra Jayasundera. I have a YouTube channel that I just started very minimally, and it's called Sarong Sessions, and it's based on mainly meditation, spirituality, wellness, and just kind of information that I've gathered in the past maybe 9 years of my spiritual journey. So it's just sort of sharing what I've learned along the way and what I'm learning and what I'm unlearning. So yeah.
Cool. So I mean, what do you usually, besides your channel and besides meditating, like what are your interests? What do you usually do with your free time?
So I mean, yeah, just hanging out with friends, reading. I like finding a topic and like diving into it and studying like every little part of it.
Right.
So as I've said, I haven't said actually, but I'm a painter, so I'm an artist. That's my main job. And
yeah, that's cool. You can.
Yeah, so I'm a painter, and because of that, I only work maybe like 2 hours a day. So because of that, I have a lot of free time. So I use that time to meditate, to do things that are spiritually connecting and studying. So like I will read up about certain aspects of spiritual.
Yeah, cool. So it's interesting that you said that you usually when you usually come across a topic that you dive deep into research of it, because I recently saw this story that you had shared on Instagram about psychedelics, and I really wanted to bring this topic up so we can talk about it, because it really is an interesting subject. So I guess maybe before we dive into the topic of meditation, maybe we can talk a little about a little about psychedelics and whatever you have gathered and learned so far about use of psychedelics and what it's all about.
So I don't smoke up. It doesn't do anything for me in regards to feeling good. I tend to feel a little bit anxious and paranoid, and it doesn't make, and I can't function on it, so it doesn't make me want to continue doing it. But I mean, I used to smoke up in England, and that's very different. I think it's because obviously it might be laced. So I very much preferred that, because I would have like hallucinations, and it was a very much psychedelic experience. But I prefer doing things that are natural. So if I am, it's this idea. So I make a lot of teas, and there is a particular tea that allows you to be, it gives you a happy high, and it's a sedative as well, so it calms you. And I will do that maybe once a month, because I also feel like, you shouldn't abuse things that are able to take you to a higher spiritual level. So I try to just, and also because you become resistant as well, you get more used to it, so that's, that's the extent that I dabble in psychedelics. I've had like mushrooms and stuff like that, but I'm kind of careful with who I'm with and where I do it, and like what I'm taking, and making sure that I'm not like overdoing it, and it's more of a kind of like a maybe a sacred sort of engagement or like ritual.
Right.
You know, I want to be like the most optimum experience that I can get out of it, you know, and I want it to be more than anything rather than, I love the whole connection of me with everything else around me, but also just like within as well. So for me, it's more of a full-on experience.
All right.
Rather than just get.
Do you mean that you you know, consider it almost to be kind of a spiritual experience?
Yeah, for sure. Like I want it to be something that makes me feel, you know, more connected and alive and able to take in more information through, you know, my surroundings and understanding, you know, my relationship with everything.
Right.
So
So something that you mentioned and something that I've actually heard before as well is that depending on the mood that you're in, what sometimes psychedelics might do is kind of amplify the mood that you're in, right? So if you're really in a kind of a sad, down low kind of mood, that they might, you know, lead you into depression or, you know, into a mood that you don't want to go to. Uh, and the opposite of that, if you're like in a really happy mood, or if you focus your thoughts on something that brings happiness to you, that also when you're under the influence of psychedelic, that might you know, amplify that feeling as well. Is that something that you have read on, that you have read about, and that you have experienced? Is that the case?
I think with anything, it's like the openness. Okay. So I think with psychedelics, because it's such a natural form as well, it obviously releases certain chemicals and opens your whole energy system, you know, your dimensions, chakra dimensions. And I think what happens is, like, if you're in resistance in a certain area, your subconscious is going to play on that area.
Okay.
So I think that you have to, when you do psychedelics, like I love the whole, you know, doing psychedelics at home, like being alone, maybe with my dog or something, where I feel the full-on complete trust.
All right.
And I think that's very important when you're taking anything, especially psychedelics. You need to be comfortable with who you are.
Sure.
Or comfortable with the situation and comfortable with like the people around you and the environment. But you know, I have heard that bad trips are also, you know, everything's a release of energy, right?
Yeah. Sure.
So everything's kind of like an excavation of your positive and also your negative energy, and your shadows as well as, you know, your light. So I think, you know, with psychedelics, it also allows you to open up those realms and release way more than you would normally, you know.
Right.
So
Yeah.
sometimes that can be scary for people. I've never had a bad trip ever. So,
All right.
but I've done acid. So, I mean, yeah, but yeah,
Right.
it's, I think each to their own, but I think, you know, bad trips do allow you to release a lot. So it's something that shouldn't be, you know, you shouldn't be scared of. It's
Right.
like that with anything, right? Pain is a good
Sure.
thing.
I mean, I really agree with one thing that you said, that I mean, I personally do believe that too much of anything is just too much. So, I mean, even if there is a person out there who has no issue whatsoever using psychedelics and, you know, being under the influence of psychedelics, I guess they need to be smart enough, and they need to know what their limit is, right? Because we all have a limit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's your connection to yourself, you know. So
Yes. And maybe
the
there
day,
are,
like,
yeah. And
intuition,
maybe, yeah. So maybe there are sides of you that you might be too scared to find out, or, you know, like maybe there are sides of you that you had no idea about, and, you know, like you might be pushed into discovering those sides when you're under the use of psychedelics. So that might be kind of scary, I guess,
exactly.
to some people.
Because opening up your awareness, like it's expanding your awareness and your consciousness within a small period of time that you would do maybe the work for about a couple of months or years, you know?
Right.
And you're doing that in a short period of time, and that's why it's like boom. And sometimes it can be scary.
So,
you know, to get to know yourself.
right. So is there anything interesting that you found out during the research that you did recently, I guess? Because I think you did do some research recently, right? If I'm not mistaken. This is kind of the topic that you have, one of the topics that you've been researching on recently.
So no, I've, looked at it like once in a while, like, so this is actually one topic that I've like looked at, intermittently,
Right.
but I didn't go like, so very, like, I know I put up a post of this psychedelic book. I didn't go like fully into it, but the thing is, like, during the first lockdown, I went into kind of herbalism, and that's what also, so I kind of, this was a couple of years ago, actually, I wanted to give up alcohol. And then I came across like alternatives, and there are like really cool stuff. Like, so for instance, there's like sleep deprivation tanks where you hallucinate, and you have like very, very vivid, dreams.
Right.
Also, if you're eating certain types of cheese, which is, so the Stilton cheese, if you eat copious amounts of it, it causes you to hallucinate. Then there's also green juice. So if you fast heavily and then you take this particular juice, that's called the green juice, that also allows you to feel a very heavy body, elevation and buzz. And sometimes people have hallucinated. So I have looked into certain things. Then there's also an alternative for alcohol would be Kratom. I don't know whether I'm saying that right, but it's from an Indonesian plant. And I think it's Kratom or Kratom. And people take that as well. It's like in a powder form. And that allows you to have that like social confidence, that people are always like searching for through alcohol, but this is natural. So yeah, there's that. Then yeah, there's so many things. Like I said, like this particular tea that I make, it's so available here, and some people. So I drink it as a tea, but some people smoke it as well. And yeah, if you, it's actually called Egyptian blue lotus, and if you take it, like if you allow it to sit in alcohol for weeks. It doesn't taste so good, but it causes like an MDMA high. So,
All right.
Yeah, there's like so much information. But yeah.
So you did say that you were trying to stop the use of alcohol through these herbal solutions, if I'm correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I was trying to stop alcohol like entirely, and I think I gave it up for 6 months, and I felt really, really, really good, and I think it just raised my my energy and my vibrations, whatever. And it was able to make me connect to people on a natural high, like a
All right.
yeah, better. But I still drink alcohol, so that was for certain. I tend to go through phases, so I like experimenting with things and trying things out,
Right.
and going through about 6-month phase and seeing where it takes me.
Right.
So.
I get that. Cool. All right. So what made you what got you into starting your YouTube channel, Sarong Sessions? What motivated you into, like, or why did you decide that you should all of a sudden start a channel and then speak out about the things that you're most passionate about?
Okay, so it was during the first lockdown.
Oh, really?
And
So it was very recent.
yeah, very recently.
Okay. All right.
It was I had been teaching. No, actually, I didn't. Oh yeah, I'd been teaching a little bit of meditation, just a little bit, to a few people, and then obviously I had all this information, and then I was having conversations with people, especially because during the lockdown, I mean, what better time? And yeah, I noticed like a certain like energy shift where people were becoming more open to certain things and becoming more conscious and wanting to find certain answers and not be so distracted with everything on the outside. So yeah, so I just decided, okay, this is a perfect time to open up certain topics, and like quite a few of my friends, they want to know about like diet topics or like fasting or whatever, so
Right.
I just thought it was perfect because it's usually what happens. Like I'll get into a conversation with someone and then it'll open up all these topics. So I figured like, why not just do it on YouTube? Ta-da. Okay, great.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. So where were we?
Where were we? I remember a question that I was gonna ask you before we got cut off. I was gonna ask you like this specific question, but what I'm not sure what we were talking about. We were talking about meditation, right? And your experience with meditation. If yeah, sorry, you were gonna say.
So no, I was talking about this certain time where it was me sitting with that sadness for about 3 weeks just to see where it would take me, and rather than distracting myself. And that's what led to me making that video, because I realized I made some like realizations, and then I also realized one very important thing of not, interfering with nature's natural process. So like even interference with other people's pain, we just very regularly, we want to help other people, and that's fine. But there's a difference between, helping and then interference with the process, because
Right.
The beauty of it.
So what are some of the things that can interfere with the process?
I mean, so everything is an interference pretty much. Because if you were to just be still and let things just naturally unfold, you'd be able to see things for what they are rather than having to jump on from one thing to another. So I think because we're so used to distracting and getting out of pain,
Right.
Don't get to just appreciate the moment and just appreciate whatever emotions that might come up. And what I realized, from that time was how beautiful it is to be alive and to experience all of it. So every single thing, rather than just the good, just the pleasure, but also, seeing the beauty in
The pain.
The pain as well. Yeah. And the displeasure of, I don't know whether that's a word, but the displeasure of life.
Right. Right.
You're part of it.
Yeah, I know that you touched on this a bit when we were talking about meditation before, but like, what are some of the benefits of meditation that you have experienced personally and that you think other people can benefit from as well?
Okay, so there's quite a few things. The main thing I would say with meditation is that if you're going to, if you want to reach certain levels, you need to be sitting longer. You need to be sitting longer, and you need to be quite dedicated, and you need to be like actually enjoying meditation and wanting to do it. And once you get to that stage, you then start to allow yourself to observe longer, and then you reach certain stages and deeper meditations. But I will say, like, meditation for like longer sittings, it's not exactly, pleasurable. It can be really, really painful because it allows you to get rid of like sankharas. It allows you to get rid of like, negative energy, and it allows you to open up, certain realms within yourself and connect within. And that's not, an easy task. I know that a side effect is that you become calmer.
All right.
You become more skillful. You become sharper minded. You're also, so one thing within meditation is to also learn, equanimity. So equanimity is where you remain balanced and neutral, and, whatever that comes along, you don't get, caught up in it. It's not always, that you'll be good at that from just doing meditation. It's a constant practice of mindfulness. So meditation is something that should be carried on throughout the day. So it's not that you sit throughout the day, but you are mindful in every moment. You're mindful with your mind. So where you are able to note what state of mind you're in, and kind of watch it change, because everything changes, right? So watching it change, watching it pass, then watching it go into the next flow of thoughts and the next kind of emotions and the next, bodily reactions that come along.
Right.
So it's being able to be an observer.
Right. So it's basically kind of being like being aware of all your thoughts, all your emotions, and everything that you go through physically and mentally throughout a particular period of time, right?
Yeah.
If I'm correct, yeah.
Throughout every day, and there's this saying, being able to be aware for one day is worth, 100 days. So like that's how but it's really hard to do,
Right.
but it's something that you practice and you get better at. It's not that, meditation is a progression. It's a practice. So it'll always, have its, just like being human, it'll always have its like pitfalls, and then you'll have the good times, and then so it's the same thing with meditation. It will be good meditation, and then it'll be a shit one,
Right.
So
Yeah. So what is your daily routine like for someone who, meditates, and someone who, does yoga as well? Like what is your typical daily routine, and what would you want your ideal daily routine to be?
I don't really plan things. I don't plan. I have maybe an inclination of, okay, this is what I need to do or whatever. But I kind of, maybe like 2 years ago, fully tried, worked on surrendering to just, so there's this book called The Surrender Experiment, and it talks about, animals being able to function, and, they don't have a plan. They don't have, a whole system of, way of thinking. So what would happen if we were to give up the plan, give up our own personal plans, our own personal energy, desires, and, flow with life, just let it be. So yeah, I don't plan. I found that when I did, I was in resistance to everything that was happening, and I wasn't in flow, and I wasn't, things just fell into place very much easily when I wasn't, planning. So I try to live for like every moment. I try to, just very presently. So I don't, so a day could be, there's never a set day, but my normal routine would be probably I'd wake up in the morning, I'd do a little bit of work, maybe an hour or two. And then, so I meditate first, I do yoga, then I do a little bit of work, Then I do a little bit of reading, maybe a little bit of studying. Then I, hang out with friends or like hang out with my dad and my dog. Very, very simple life. I don't, I like it just, minimal. So,
right.
yeah.
So for me, it's exactly the opposite of that. And I think I kind of prefer it that way as well, because,
Just
you know,
masculine.
sorry, I couldn't hear you.
It's also because you're masculine. So, masculine energy, I mean, we have both,
All right.
feminine and masculine, but when you're mostly masculine, it's more planning, it's more pushing.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So you're saying the feminine energy in us is more like kind of like free flowing, whereas
Yeah.
the masculine energy is more, focused,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ambitious, push,
Okay. All right.
do,
All right. But yeah, so I think one thing that I've realized, or rather one thing that I've decided that in my stage of planning, and basically in my stages of planning that I wanted to actively do is I want to have a period of time where I'm kind of free flowing with my ideas and with my activities, like you said, because if it's all planning 24/7, you know, every day, I think for me personally, that would, when it turns into a routine, I feel like I might really lose purpose of certain important things in life. So I make sure I plan for certain days, but I also plan for that uncertain period of uncertainty as well. Like there's a period of there are a couple of days where I just completely lazy out, and by
Yeah.
lazy out I mean I just indulge in the simple pleasures of life. Like maybe I sketch something, maybe I just take my guitar and just compose something. um, Not that I don't do it on the other days as well, but on the other days it's more planned out. you know I have it written down saying, okay, from 6 to 7. Sorry, yeah, I could hear you.
No, I was saying, isn't it funny that when you're not planning, that's when you're creative?
Yeah.
That's when you allow yourself to flow, and that's you.
Right.
If I guess that's a balance that you day to day work on. To allow yourself to have creative time, or not even creative time, but allow yourself to be and flow with nature and
Right.
allow yourself to just express itself.
Cool.
I think, when you're planning, it comes also from an ego perspective. So it can come from like an ego mind.
Right.
And so you get caught up in that. And then it doesn't leave room for you to be you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, talking about, since you brought up the idea of ego in people, for me, it had always been very difficult to find a balance between being self-confident and being egoistic. And I still kind of do struggle to find that balance, but I'm not saying I am egoistic, but like trying to avoid that ego in us completely is not an easy task. So like, but like there have been times where I've been very self-loathing, and there have been times that I've been very confident of myself. So yeah, I think it it has been kind of a challenge to find that balance of being the right amount of confident throughout, and it's something that I look forward to every day. And it's definitely a challenge to keep that ego out as well. Yeah, just that's just
Yeah,
another
I don't think it's about eradicating your ego. I think it's about,
control.
managing it and
Yeah,
letting it work for you rather than
exactly.
it taking over you.
Exactly.
Like, if you're able to be aware, and the fact that you are aware that, you know, there have been mishaps or whatever, shows that, you know, in time you will obviously get better at managing your ego. You're aware of it, and that's the main key. It's to be aware of whatever state of mind you're in, whatever, mental volitions you have, and
Right.
whatever reactions you have, and working better at it, you know, and making it work for you. You know, the ego is not a bad thing. There are 4 stages, and the ego is not a bad thing. It's when you get to like the stage of being able to manage it, then it's sort of just something that's within you, and you're like, okay, it's just there, and that's it. I don't have to be afraid of it. No, it doesn't have to take over my life.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. It's all a learning.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So I think, I mean, I've pretty much covered all the questions that I wanted to ask you and all the topics that I wanted to speak to you about. Is there anything else that you would like to, speak about, or maybe even ask me, or like even just, speak to the audience about? Maybe some advice from what you have experienced through meditation, and what advice do you have to beginners, who get into meditation and yoga?
Okay. The main thing that people make a mistake with when they first start meditation is that so firstly, they usually think that it's going to be a progression. It's not a progression, it's a practice. So there's going to be good days and there's going to be bad days, but it's not about evaluating it. It's about just being okay with whatever that it is, and just letting that, be a session of, but it's just a practice. So you carry that on, you don't get deterred by it. There'll be bad times and there'll be good times. You don't get deterred by it. Secondly, people always think that meditation is trying to control your thoughts and preventing them from coming in. It's not the case. It's natural to have, wavelengths of thoughts that come in. The main focus is that you're being aware, and as soon as so for instance, you're in meditation and your mind wanders, which it naturally will, everyone's does. When it does wander and you notice it, that is called awareness. So as soon as you notice it and you become aware, immediately bring it back to the focal point. And yeah, it's not about controlling your thoughts. You're just being an observer, an experiencer. You can't control your thoughts. You can only just let it, as practice goes on, it will get, you'll get more distance from your thoughts. And this is literally like distance. So your thoughts get quieter. Your thoughts get quieter, and you're able to decipher between your intuition and your core, and your thoughts, your ego, and be able. And once you get to that distance, then your thoughts aren't so loud. But that takes time. That takes practice. And thirdly, I would say, there are a lot of apps out there that push on calming, and that's fine. But there's so much more out there, and there's so much more to meditation and to yourself, and so much more capabilities of what you're made up of. So if you were to dedicate yourself to meditation, I would say, do longer sittings. It can be painful, but that's part of it. That's the beauty of it. So that's the beauty of everything.
Right.
Yeah. So there. Yeah.
Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you for yours. It's been wonderful. It's been awesome. I think for sure, definitely. Like I said earlier, I mean, like I mentioned at the beginning of the session, what I personally look forward to when I, discuss a certain topic with with anyone is to learn from them. And I think I definitely did learn a lot. And I think that was my intention anyway. I wanted to personally, speak to you and learn what I could about meditation, self-awareness, exercise, yoga, all these things that you have, personally experienced and you practice every day. And hopefully the audience, they will, learn from whatever we discuss as well. So yeah, Tamara, like it's been wonderful. It's been awesome. So yeah, sure.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
When I say, practice, I mean practicing every day. So this means like, and lengthening the time. So usually people will start with 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. In order to get to certain stages, you need to be doing, much longer. You need to be doing more than 45 minutes, in order to really connect within and see, the benefits. Like, yes, there are benefits no matter how much meditation you do, but to really like see different states and deeper meditation, that's a different thing, so there's that.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on our episode, be on this episode of Thinking Hat, and sharing all your experiences with us.
Okay. Thank you so much for giving me the time to talk about it as well.
Yeah.
Listening to me, and I'm glad that it helped you, and you've learned some things.
Yeah.
I've also learned from you as well.
Yeah. So there are like 4 or 5 people who have subscribed to our channel, and I'm pretty sure they will learn something too.
Okay. Perfect.